My name is Marilyn Aboussie, and I am a senior judge for the state of Texas. I'm the retired Chief Justice of the Court of Appeals for the 3rd District of the state of Texas. I truly had a wonderful childhood, so I don't have any dark secrets to tell about, but I come from a great big ethnic extended family, so we were always together, lots of cousins and aunts and uncles, grandparents, and our family was in business, so I worked. Most of us worked. I had a lot of role models who were very important. I had all 4 of my grandparents were immigrants, and all came to the country and eventually Texas. When they came, they couldn't even speak English, so I can identify with a lot of people who are in that situation even today. I had one particular grandmother who came when she was 15 by herself, with her younger sister, I should say, no parent. And she was a peddler, so she peddled across the United States and was pretty remarkable. So she was kind of a hero to me. And then my other grandparents were a little more successful and had a department store, but even so, it was remarkable to me, and I always felt like they had sacrificed so much that I had to live up to those expectations, so to speak. Well, first of all, education was so important. Again, coming from immigrants in our family, my grandparents were still there. They still spoke a foreign language, though they learned English too. But for them, education was the key to success in the future. So the grandparents instilled that in my parents, and then my parents instilled that in us, that was expected, that we would become educated and productive citizens of the United States. I was 12 years old, I think, when John Kennedy was elected. And for some unknown reason, I got very involved in politics. And again, my family was not involved in partisan politics. Indeed, because we had businesses, we couldn't even put a sign in our yard for a candidate because it might offend another customer, who was on the other side of that issue. So Daddy did not encourage me in partisan politics, but they were kind of amazed that I did get so involved. And I worked on campaigns all through high school and college. So that was kind of what I was interested in doing, is going into politics. So I really thought I was going to run for office. And when I left D.C., I thought I'd go back to D.C. as an elected person. But my life took a different turn, and it was a good turn. So, we have to stay open to our options and possibilities. But that's what kind of took me back to law school, and my family was very encouraging. I worked at the Capitol. I worked for our state representative the whole time I was at law school. And there were not many women at law school then. And it was sort of a novelty. In fact, my hometown paper wrote an article, kind of "Woman Goes to Law School" was sort of the theme of the article. And then my husband and I moved to West Texas, where we were practicing law in a pretty large area, but living in San Angelo. And the bar and others realized we needed another district court. So with the help of a number of people and our representatives, we sought that and got legislative approval. Once you get a new court, then who's going to take that bench? And I was fortunate, really. People came to me and asked if I would consider taking the bench. There were a few other people obviously interested as well. And I felt I was probably not, I was very young. I was 31. And so I wasn't sure I was up to the task, or that I was smart enough, or that I would have the ability to do what's required to be a district judge. And I went to one of the older judges, and he said, this isn't rocket science. I mean, you're smart, and you've got good common sense, and you understand right from wrong, and you have integrity and whatever, and so you can do it. And he convinced me I could do it, or I probably would not have had the courage to seek that bench. In the judiciary, we often laughingly say that a judge is just a lawyer who knows the governor. And I was a lawyer and I knew the governor, so I got the bench. That's really how it happened. I didn't know when I was working on all those campaigns and all those activities that those connections would be important. That's kind of a lesson for young people, which we might get to later in our discussion. But everything we do in life involves connections with other people, and we never know when the thing we do that's bad is going to come back to haunt us, and we never really know what connections we might have made or friends we've made along the way who can help us when we need that help. Well, when I became a district judge, it was quite newsworthy, because at that period of time, even you don't realize how things have changed, but it was like, what's it like to be a woman lawyer? What's it like to be a woman judge? And I remember one of the things I would jokingly say is, I've been a woman for about 31 years and I've kind of gotten over the surprise of it. I mean, it was like, I don't know what it's like to be a man judge. I just know what it's like to be a judge. And I happen to be female. But one of the things that I did used to say is that I know it's a great honor to be the first, but it's even better knowing I won't be the last. So lawyers came from all over the state of Texas to volunteer their time, and it was a phenomenal undertaking. Nothing like that had ever occurred. Nobody knew there were that many children because they're very secretive, and they were isolated. So when they started removing children, they just kind of came, hundreds of them. And it was hard. It was a challenge for everybody involved, including the families and the children. But I did participate in some of the hearings and sat through all of the hearing and trials involving Warren Jeffs, who was their prophet. The same governor was still governor. And a Court of Appeals judge retired, so it became, the movement was, we had a judge from San Angelo on the Court of Appeals, we should replace that person with somebody from West Texas. It came to me that the governor could appoint someone to replace a retiring judge. And once again, Governor Mark White appointed me to replace the Judge Earl Smith on the Court of Appeals. There are ways to make those connections. The courtrooms are open. For example, we have open courts in Texas, and anybody can go into a courtroom and watch a trial. Every one of those people in the courtroom would be willing to talk to a student. If you watched an argument and it was over, and don't stop them when they're really mad, but if you just went up to the judge and said, I'm 14 years old, I'm thinking about the law, would you have time sometime to visit with me? And he'd say, come on in right now. Every one of those lawyers would be willing to talk to you. The court clerk would be willing to visit with you and tell you about the process. The court reporter, there's the bailiff. There are so many people who make up the system as we know it. So that's a simple way, but volunteering in any civic organization, every charitable organization, every campaign, every political office needs volunteers.